Real Dad Talk, episode 72, Fatherhood.
Welcome everyone, Chris B here along with Rob K. How you doing, Rob?
Chris, I'm fantastic. We have our special guest, Kev Orkian, on the show.
Baron Orkian.
Alright, that's the way it goes. Baron. I like
Baron.
that. Baron, okay.
When you elevate yourself to the status that Kev has, he gets the Baron.
I get the sir, okay.
Yes, and
Okay.
he
So
just...
bow, if you wouldn't mind, gentlemen, just bow. Come look anything. That's it. There you go, thanks very much.
So, Kev, you got in yesterday?
Yeah.
And you're out tomorrow?
Yeah,
And you managed to squeeze us in.
apparently.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, Real Dad Talk wanted to have Kev on. He's got twins.
I have, yeah. I've got
Yes.
10, well, nearly 10. There'll be 10 in 2 weeks.
Excellent. And their names? Oh, please.
Jake and Luke.
So we call that our dad stats. And he's now here at the wonderful
Glenmark.
Glenmark in Glendale.
Yep.
He
Great hotel.
was very involved in an event last night.
Yep.
And maybe you want to speak on that a little?
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. So the event I did was the Chamlian Schools fundraising event. And it was fantastic. 600 people turned up. It was great entertainment from Harald Pambukjian. We had a great laugh with everyone. It was just fantastic. And they raised 2 million. So
Amen.
that's just brilliant, man.
Amen. And are the boys here with you?
My sons?
Yes.
No, because if they were, I wouldn't be travelling. I wouldn't be travelling on an aeroplane at a upper class. So I'd be travelling in cattle class. So the fact that they're at home just chilling out, I can travel in luxury, knowing that I'm getting here without having to worry too much.
So, twins, right?
Yeah.
Are they similar? Are they very different? How do you explain?
They're totally two different children. So it's like chalk and cheese. Totally chalk and cheese. I've got one child who's quite short, glasses, very character driven, loves the music, loves everything he does. Yeah, and he wears glasses, that's right. So he's absolutely fantastic. The other one, much taller, more Armenian. Because his skin colour, and he's a football freak, but he loves mathematics. He's one of those guys. So they, they're very different children, but what they have in common, which I'm so pleased about, is their sense of humour. They laugh at the same things. It's great.
So they got that from mom? You're not laughing.
No, I'm not laughing.
All right, so do they watch what you put out there? Do they like, that's funny, Dad?
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
love what you put out there.
Yeah, totally. They're really critical about the work I put out there as well. So when I'm doing like the comedy mother and this and that, whatever, and the Armenian mum and this and that, they laugh. Sometimes they don't get it and they go, why is that funny? And I look at them and go, just shut up.
Do
Go
you
away.
respect them as critics, though?
Yeah, I love them. Yeah.
You do?
Well, because they're the next generation. So what they watch on, on YouTube, on Instagram, what they're watching at the moment is what they love watching all the time. So if that is going to generate the kind of sense of humour or certainly the interest of a child, then I need to understand what they're enjoying so that I can do the same.
Right. So on Real Dad Talk, we talk about how we act as fathers. So, for example, would your father have invited that kind of comment or criticism from you?
Good God, no. Are you mad? My father would have gone to work at 6 o'clock in the morning, come back at 7, and I would have been like, do you know what? It took 15 years later. I went, so who are you, mate? I didn't even know who he was. He'd leave in the morning at 6, come back at 7. That was it. I mean, I hardly ever knew my father.
But the man did contribute to your character.
Oh, yes.
Well,
Actually, not to my character, but to my ethics.
Okay.
You see, my character is pretty much my mum.
Okay.
But my ethics is my father. So, whereas...
So describe a difference between the two.
Okay, so,
For you.
ethics. The principles of working hard, not giving up, putting your mind to something and completing it, accomplishing it.
Okay.
Don't give up on anything you start. That was his
At
thing.
any expense.
At any expense.
Okay.
Whereas my mother was very much the character-driven. He wants to be an entertainer. He wants to be an artist. My father was like, there's no money in this. Don't get him to do, push him to do more, kind of be a plumber, be an electrician, be something like that, something like a quality job. But I didn't want to do that. I knew what I wanted to do. I was always going against the grain. I was basically the black sheep of the family. But my father, he stepped back and allowed my mum to handle all that.
Bravo.
But
That's a lot.
that is a lot. But where he came in was the ethics. I watched him and I understood that whatever you do in your life, the stronger you work and put intelligence behind what you do, the better it's going to be. Now, my father, predominantly, I would say, was more of a slave to his own procrastination, his own laziness at not wanting to succeed any more than he could have done. He was given 2 or 3 occasions to become a manager. He was given a regional manager position. He turned it all down. He turned down the big money.
In what industry?
Being in telecommunication.
Telecommunications.
And the reason he turned it down was because he didn't want to do any more than he had to. Whereas when I came into it, I want to be in control of everything. I want to be the biggest producer, the biggest innovator of entertainment in this world. And to do that, I have to take risks every day. And so when my father sees me now, he goes, "Oh, my heart is, I couldn't handle what you do. I couldn't handle what you do. Oh my God, please don't talk to me, seriously." He's one of those.
Where does he live now?
Lives with my mum. No. He lives about 10 minutes from my house.
So she's managed to
She's
tolerate
a manager, but she wears the trousers.
No, I said she managed to tolerate him.
So, yes. Yeah, but only because he would go to work at 6 and come home at 7. She didn't have to see him for nearly 13 hours a day. And then when she did see him, she saw him for 2 hours, and then she went to bed at 9:30. He goes to bed at 11.
That's the ethics part where you were saying. That's something that you actually were able to benefit from as far as your father, right?
Yeah, totally.
And mom, as far as character goes, this is something that Rob and I were talking about. How do we maintain our culture as Armenians? We wait for... Oh, we'll talk about ambulances later. I got an ambulance.
Oh, was that an ambulance?
Yes. Ambulance.
Fire engine.
Fire engine.
Yeah, wow.
Okay. So, what are your and your wonderful wife's efforts at maintaining the Armenian culture in the diaspora outside of Armenia?
That's a really good question. It's difficult when you've got a wife who's not Armenian.
Okay.
Yeah. So my wife's English. However, she respects my heritage. She respects my culture, and we've had incredible conversations about how, my kids, they're not English. They're English and Armenian. Yeah. Because I'm Armenian. I'm a British Armenian. My wife is an English girl. So bringing that culture together, bringing the fact that actually the unity of Armenians is about the fact that we cannot dilute our culture simply because I'm married to an English girl. So I teach my boys everything about Armenia, everything about our heritage, our history. They know so much about my life, my parents' lives, to do with Armenia. And they're so interested in it. I speak to them in Armenian all the time. They're inquisitive. Recently, I'm not joking, I actually finished praying with my son because I said to him, if you pray and you believe and you conceive, you will achieve. And he was like, okay. So he was praying and he did, "Dear God, please make mummy's foot feel better. Make daddy work a lot more than he's already doing and get more work." So I'm looking at him thinking, right, and then please God, and please help my brother not to tease me anymore and all that. I'm thinking,
sure.
Great. And then I said, "But you forgot something." He said, "What?" I said, "Make sure Nana leaves early and doesn't stay with us anymore." So I was like, those kind of gags. And then he went, "Amen." I went, "Amen." He went, "Amen." And I went, "Hold on a minute, I haven't taught you that." Who taught you? He said, "I went on YouTube and found out."
Oh, wow.
Watch one of your videos.
Hello.
Amen.
There you go.
Okay.
So it just shows you the inquisitiveness.
This goes back to, we talk about manifesting and motivation.
Yeah.
If you push yourself, that's what we're trying to push our kids to do, right?
Yeah.
Trying to push them to go the right direction.
Sure.
And motivation.
Push or motivate?
A little bit of both.
I think we have to push.
I agree, 100%.
Because we have so much distraction, so much noise in this world that we live in.
I like that. Very subtle.
So
Appreciate it.
how do you motivate, push your kids to do,
By example.
Okay.
Simple as that. By example. For me, my sons see me leave the house every morning at 8 o'clock. But before I leave the house, I've already been up 2 hours. So they see the night before how the house looked. Mm-hmm. They see the fact that, we were playing in the sitting room, there are toys everywhere, this, that, one. When they come down in the morning at 8 o'clock, or even earlier actually, 7:30, they come down. Breakfast is on the table, whether it's me or my wife. Breakfast is on the table. Everywhere's clean. Everywhere's tidy. The sofas are tidied up. The kitchen is done and dusted. This happens, that happens. They walk into our bedroom and the bed has been made. It's solid. You can drop a coin and it will bounce. That's how I do it. So they see me by example. Then they go and brush their teeth into the bedroom. They make their own beds. Everything is done by example, which is why, by doing that, I motivate them through my own passion to make the world a better place.
So, with everything going on in the world, how do we teach our children, and other than setting an example, how do we distinguish ourselves as Armenians?
Distinguish ourselves from what, though?
Linguistically, culturally, in unity?
Well, we're unique. We're a unique nation. We're a unique heritage. What Armenians have gone through and what Armenians are today, no other culture has ever gone through. We cannot compare ourselves to the Jews. We cannot compare ourselves to the Sikhs or the Muslims or even evangelical Christians. Everyone's different. Everyone's different. The secret to Armenians is we have had a survival DNA that has allowed us to thrive 2,000 years to today, where we still push, we still strive. Don't get me wrong, as a unity, and we'll probably talk about this, but as a unity, we are not, I believe, there yet. But as individuals, we're probably some of the most incredible human beings on the planet. And I truly believe that.
I agree with you. And when you say we're not truly there yet, one of the things that I went through with my girls is it starts with your siblings. Be able to work with one another, understand that your sibling is your best friend, right? And if
Well, you're meant to think that.
Right, that's what I said. But it does work out that sometimes, and also it doesn't. But you have to maintain that constant, that your family is your everything.
Right.
Knowing that it could go haywire, but if your core is set in that fashion, then maybe you have success in the future. And how do you move that familial unity into a cultural unity?
Personally, I think family is what the key element of Armenians is anyway. I think it drives us as people. I think we also look at other people, so other families, other friends. We look at them as an extension of our own family. We always have done. So that's why my mum always used to say to me, call him uncle, call her auntie, call her dede, call her mum. I called everyone
Or cousin.
Or cousin. I called them everyone by a family member rather than actually by their name. Because calling someone by their name and going, hi Hilda,
It's a respect. It's a respect.
That was
It's
it.
a respect.
And it was that kind of attitude. My mum always did that. Okay, so suddenly she was a tantig. So what I'm trying to say is, I think the extension of family is automatic. I think where we struggle as a unity in a much larger organisation,
Okay.
I believe, is the fact that we have certain traits as Armenians that we seem to cannot get rid of from our DNA. One of the biggest ones is being judgmental. We always have an opinion about everything. We cannot allow a person, say a family, struggling. But let me give you a really prime example, and this happened in England. A family were doing great, wealthy, whatever, while they were earning lots of money, and he was driving around in the top of the range Jaguar. This is in the 80s. Every Armenian in that association was like, this and that. He's not a really nice guy. He's earning a lot of money. It's Satan's money. This, that, whatever. Blah 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 blah. 7 years later, that guy had a serious heart attack. His family struggled. He couldn't earn any more money. And actually, they deteriorated into actually moving from their very big, large home. Over a period of 3 years, they moved into a very small condo type kind of property, and this and that. He had, obviously, they sold the Jaguar. They had to pay for the money for the heart operation, this, that, whatever. Every single Armenian went from being judgmental to being,
Empathetic?
yeah. And my problem there is, why were we not empathetic at the start when they were earning all the
First
money?
happened.
Why do we have to judge them just because they got money or just because they're this? We don't have it in our DNA, and we need to get it into our DNA, that actually supporting one another doesn't just come down to certain factors, it comes down to every factor. And if we can support the youth of today by giving them the same love as we do our own children, and giving it to strangers who are Armenian, but their children, we will develop a brand new wave of young people that will grow up wanting to actually support and help each other a lot more than they do now.
So I kind of wish you hadn't said DNA, because I don't know how we're going to change our DNA.
Yeah, we're all hardwired.
If we're gonna, right, but if we can change our behavior and our habits and practice those new habits, is it possible to accomplish that DNA change that we're so thirsty for? Because we've been thirsty for thousands of years.
Well, they say that a child is a sponge from like 0 to 9, 0 to 8. After that, outside influences like social media and whatnot play a big hand in it. So I think as being parents from 0 to 8, 0 to 9, we can control that. Be a selfless person, not a selfish person. Don't be judgmental of other people. But after a while, I feel like we're at a disadvantage. Social media, TV, media perceives a picture on life itself. So it's very tough for us to even reach out to our kids and teach them these things after a certain point. Once they're my kids are 10 and 11, 10 and 12. So they're at that age where they're not listening to me. They're listening to everything around them. How would you say parents?
No, they're not listening to you, but they're watching you.
Yeah.
Don't ever think that you are not an example and you're not setting the example, because I'll tell you right now, in 20 years' time, they'll be like, cheers, Dad, thank you, because actually we might not have listened to you, but we watched what you did.
Either that or the opposite.
And our ethics are that we need to do the same as what you did, because what you did, we can see the results now.
Yeah.
So for me, if my children are not going to listen to me, that's absolutely fine. But when they watch what I do and they see what I do and the passion that I have for my people, for what I believe is the next generation of our responsibility, then when they get to a certain age, they don't need to question it. They'll just go, well, look, there's the result. Look what's happened.
Yeah.
We need to do the same. So it's living by example. I keep saying this all the time. I think it's very important.
And I agree. And when we look at, you're very active on social media.
Yeah.
And your Instagram posts, there's a very strong motivational speaking aspect.
Yeah. I talk every morning. Yeah.
Right. And if that motivational speaking was to be directed towards fathers, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's your experience as a father, whether it's an experience that you have as a child from your father, what would be simple, golden nuggets that you would give to fathers just to hang their hat on as they go through the parenting process?
I think our love for our children is a different love to a mother's love for her children. And I say this in not the love concept of, oh, I love my children more than you. No, I don't mean it that way. I mean that as a father, I have a different responsibility to show my sons that actually you have fun, you go and get your education, you then start working, and then you start providing. However, all those levels that you get to is a different emotion, and there's a different purpose behind every emotion. I earned my money and I shared it with my wife simply on going on holidays, buying nice things, getting nice cars, this, that, whatever. The moment they were born, nothing else mattered to me. Nothing. The only thing that mattered was I need to make sure these two beings that are sucking every single penny out of my bank account,
existence.
yeah, they come up better than I ever did. And that's as simple as it is.
So before I got married, actually no, I shouldn't say before I got married. Before Armina and I had children, like Vegas, every few months we go to Vegas. We had our first child, Leah. I'm like, I'm not going to Vegas.
Back garden.
She's like,
Barbecue.
what do you mean? We'll stay at home, we'll barbecue, we'll save that money. Now, I feel that way because I'm concerned that I don't want anything to be at the expense of my child.
Right.
I want to always make sure that we're doing our best. But here's my next thought to you, Kev, is that you can't forget yourself, right?
But you do.
But we should, in my opinion, we should not. When do we give ourselves that moment to deflate, to regroup, to put ourselves in a stronger position, to continue being that example, as you say?
That's difficult because I think you have to have an understanding with your partner, whether it's your wife, your girlfriend, or whatever, or even your husband, or even I think you've got to have an agreement, and the agreement in place is: I work from here to here, I spend time with my children from here to here, but I need here to here for me to sit down, stare at a tree, maybe have a cigar and a drink, and have time to regenerate
Correct.
my own mindset. Because if I don't, and we have to regenerate our mindset, because if we don't,
Absolutely.
we go round in circles, and it's an engine that never goes any further than what you allow it to. So when you step back and go, I've done this for a year now, actually I could manage my own business, I want to take that risk. Those things are very scary, but if you speak to your partner and you build it, then you can move forward with a different mindset every single time. And I think that's really important as well.
I know you have a thought, but hold that thought. What would you say? So sorry. What would you say about the single father? We're not in that situation.
Well, thank God we're not. But
Right.
but with a single father, someone once said to me on Clubhouse on the podcast thing that we were talking on, and he said, my wife has taken both my children. She won't allow me to see them. I said, why? Because she just thinks I'm a loser and this and that, whatever. And he was talking very, very openly with us. And 3 months later, he was back on the same podcast and we were having a talk. And I said, what was the result of you being able to see your children again? And he said to me, patience. And he said also, never, ever, ever
Give up.
disrespecting their mother.
Okay.
That was his thing. He said, by not disrespecting the mother, they turned to me automatically because she was still disrespecting me. And they were like, enough. Dad's not done anything wrong. He's just been the nicest man, and all you've ever done.
Wise enough to recognize.
And he was wise enough to keep quiet and never ever to slam his wife down in front of his children. And it worked. And now they live with him.
Is this out here or
Out here.
great attorney?
No, not great attorney at all.
He handled it himself.
Handled it all himself.
Bravo.
He did it through his thing. One of his children was 12, the other one was 15. And at the time when they were divorcing or when they were separating, obviously the 12-year-old would have been, or 11-year-old, and the young one would have been, maybe 7 or 8. And it was a very difficult time. And they were all under the reign of their mother. The court had actually seen it to be on the mother's side anyway. But he stepped back, took a breather. 3 years later, they're living with him because he never once disrespected his wife.
Bravo.
So going back to the other thought, where kids' career paths, where your child wants to go in a certain career path,
Right.
okay, whatever it may be, ventriloquist, magician, who knows these days?
Okay.
With social media, there's a lot of careers.
Two funny careers he chose, to be fair.
Right.
He could have gone with, a gym manager, ventriloquist. What would we go with it? All
Well,
right.
it happens to be
because we were on
Britain's Got Talent, but okay.
No, we had a show where we were talking about this. That was one of the topics, and I wanted to ask, what if your child says, "This is the route I want to go"?
Yeah.
Whatever it may be.
Yeah.
You're gonna respect it. You're gonna say, "I want to know more." No, absolutely not. Like, what would you do?
For me, this is quite black and white.
Yeah.
If it makes your heart sing,
Run
do
with it.
Run with it. Now, it might not be my career move, but if it's going to make you happy, I brought you to this world to be happy. I didn't bring you to this world to suffer. Life gives you that anyway. I didn't bring you into this world to make you upset and make you angry. The world does that for you anyway. You came into this world for me to just say, I'm here for you. If you fall down, I'll pick you back up again. But whatever makes you happy, that's what you go with. And my mum and dad didn't do that to me. My mum backed off and then started allowing me. My dad didn't want me to. But my heart sang when I stood on that stage and I performed to an audience. My father didn't think it until the day I did my show in the West End, which is your version of Broadway.
Mm.
He came and saw the show. After the show, we went for something to eat. And when the bill came, I paid it. And he looked at me and he teared up and he said, okay. And that was when he accepted what I did for him.
You kept on pushing. You kept on persisting.
So that's what I would do. I would certainly allow my son to pursue whatever he wants to. I'll be there to support him. But if he falls down, I'll be like, don't worry, mate. Life's going to make you stronger. Stand back up again. And that's where I want to be. I want to be the place where I go, come, stand up. Let's keep going.
So recently I went through a little situation that there was a topic that clearly comes up that you and I haven't quite found the opportunity to discuss. And that is, how do you, and this is so far from what we're talking about, and I don't even know if we're going to move forward with this, but have either of you considered the discussion of the passing of a loved one, whether it's family or a friend, with your children? Because I think our children, mine are the youngest, you're next in line, and you're kind of in between and above. Have you guys run across anything like that?
Yes. And for me, it's a simple equation. My children already know that we're not human beings.
Okay.
We're spiritual beings living a human existence. So we never die.
Interesting. So then you've had the discussion of how your human, your physical life ends, and your spiritual life continues, everlasting.
Absolutely. We came to this world as a light, and we will leave as a light. But that doesn't mean we die. It means we move on to our next journey. But we adopt a physical being, a body here, which we grow into, and it grows with us. And we live our lives. We live a human existence, but we're all spiritual beings, because I truly believe that if all human beings on the planet, all in one moment, think positive thoughts about the world, we would change it regularly, but we don't. But I truly believe we have the power, and let's be honest with you, Jesus said this as well at the time. He knew what he was talking about. But we have the power to be greater than he was, simply by believing that we are spiritual beings living a human existence.
So was this a conversation that you actually had because of the passing of someone, or just theoretically overall?
No, by reading many books, listening to many different speakers over the years, and understanding that actually when you look at the fundamental concept of what it means to be existing, it is a gift. It is a gift to be on this planet. It is a gift to breathe. It is a gift to see and hear and touch and feel, but it's all, and taste. These are all gifts, okay? So if we come onto this planet and we decide that we're not going to fulfill our entire ambition of existing the best possible way we can, then we're actually denying to the infinite intelligence, which people call God. I call it infinite intelligence. We're denying our real existence, which is we have everything that we want and we can do anything that we want if we believe that we have the ability to do it. But because we live a human existence, we start putting barriers and hurdles in front of ourselves as human beings. So I've said to my children, I came to this planet in 1974. I am going to leave this planet in the better place than I found it. How do I do that? I do that by living the best possible way I can as a human being and passing that on to my children. And I say to them, and once I'm dead and gone, I said, I want you to give me a standing ovation in the church.
Bravo.
And let me go on. And then you do exactly what I try to do and live the best possible existence you can. And that's how I do it.
So it's what all that's going on in the world, we briefly touched upon it, with the Middle East situation, with what's going on in Artsakh. There's a lot. And my kids are asking me a lot of questions. Why is this happening? Why is that happening? And I'm trying to give the most politically correct answer without,
Yeah.
So it's very tough especially in times like this, because I have family originally based from the Middle East, so I know the background. I know what it's like to live in those times.
But wouldn't you give it to them in doses based on their age,
I want
what they can tolerate and digest?
I want to be transparent. I don't want to be someone that just gives them nothing. I want to educate them, even if you're talking about a little bit about religion, a little about faith. If my kids have a question, I try to get the answers. But what do we say? How do we tell them? Because these are some crazy times we live in. How do we tell them to be optimistic?
About what? Just overall outlook in life?
because this past 2 months already, I'm seeing a lot of stress with adults. It could be going from adults to children because there's a lot of war going on. And
yes.
How do we address this? How do we talk to our kids and be like, it's going to be fine? I don't know. How do you say it's going to be fine?
Why would you say it's going to be fine? Right.
It's not going to be fine.
That's what I'm saying. How do you say it's going to be fine, but it's not going to be fine?
Well, history repeats itself when the person doesn't learn from its past. That's as simple as it gets. History is repeating again and again and again and again. And it's repeating because the past has not been learned. And unfortunately, greed, unfortunately, negativity, lies, these are all part of our lives. This is all part of our lives. And when it continues in a form of wanting more for yourself rather than for others, then you're going to have war and it's going to continue. What's happening in the Middle East, what's happening in Armenia, in Artsakh, in Azerbaijan, in Ukraine, what's happening in Israel, what's happening in Palestine, this is a continuation that, by the way, don't think is going to just be there. This will move swiftly onto Europe, it will move on to England, it will move on to America, but it will constantly repeat itself if we don't learn from the past. And that's the problem we have. So when my children ask me, Daddy, what's going on in Armenia? It's really unfair, people are dying, this and that. I go, son, this has been happening for years and it will continue to happen unless we change our mindsets and we look at a collaboration of believing and understanding that we are only a short guest on this planet. And if we can just do the best we can on this planet before we leave, then actually war has no place in that.
So, in all this, and thank you, Kev, for making the time for us.
Pleasure.
I want to hear your closing thoughts. Kev, I'm dying to hear yours, and we hope you guys have enjoyed this. Take it away, Rob.
Overall, I just love the motivation, the positive thinking that you put forward. So this is a treat for us, not only for fathers, for kids, for parents, for everyone out there, just to not, think that it's the end, there's no possibilities. If you manifest it, if you have that motivation, you're going to get it. Like I said, I always worry about the next generation, our kids' generation. We're already almost done. We're almost halfway done with this. I think almost halfway. But I really do worry about our kids in general. But as long as we do provide them with that information, give them that faith, give them that information they need.
Set the example, as Kev said.
Absolutely. So I think there's a lot to take away from this, and really appreciate you coming on the show, having time for us. You're only in town for like 72 hours. Really appreciate that.
No, not at all. For me, I think my closing thoughts would be the fact that I say all the time we live by example. Our parents were probably worried about what the world was going to look like when we were kids. But the world looks like a good place. There's a few bad people out there. There's a lot of bad situations.
But all things considered, yes.
Yeah, it's still a good place, and it's a beautiful place. So for me, I think, and shout out to all your fathers out there, I think be a good example to your children by being a good example to yourself. And you mentioned the fact that, when you manifest, conceive, achieve, and do it. But there's one thing that every father has to remember is it's all good to manifest. It's all good to dream those wonderful dreams about what you want for your children and your life and this and that, whatever. But unless you take action, none of it will happen. So my thing to all the dads out there is take action. Once you take action, everything is open to you.
Thank you. See all your dads next time. Kev, thank you so much.
A pleasure.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Soon.
You can check us out on RealDadTalk.com. All these clips, all this will be available on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you, Kev.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys. God bless you.
Bye.
Real Dad Talk.